Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Ray Feurstein, and he's at the beach. Hi, Ray.
I'm in the woods, actually.
In the woods now.
I'm in the woods now. Oh, Lord.
So you had two near-death experiences, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I
So,
actually had I actually had three when I
okay.
got married. No, I'm only kidding.
Okay. All right. So you can start wherever you like and take as long as you like.
Well,
And I'm
say
going to
hello to
leave us
everybody.
like this, side to side, because this past week I've done a few videos, and when I flip it on speaker, it keeps flipping back to me, and I don't know what's going on. It's a Zoom thing. I don't know why it's
Hmm.
doing it, and it got worse last night. Like every other second, it's flipping on me, and so I'm just going to leave us right here.
Yeah, I looked that up when we were talking about it. And it has to do with background noise and also there's a setting for clipping in there. So I was trying to find it to help you, but
Okay, thank you.
I don't use Zoom very often.
Okay.
So anyhow, my name is Ray Feurstein. I am to be 70 years old pretty soon. And much of this happened when I was a lot younger. The first NDE or near death experience, I like to actually call it a near life experience because I'm dead already. So I'm coming back the other way. So depends on your perspective, I guess. But I was 5 years old and I had been a bad boy during the morning time. I took my sister's um, what do you call it? Dollhouse, and it was old. And I wish I didn't do it because it's an antique now. And I played demolition derby with it and tore it apart. Now the shed in the backyard was by the garbage. I thought it was garbage, so I said, I'll go do this. I have nothing else to do. Well, once that happened, my sister came home and she went crazy. She's, oh, you little brat, blah blah blah. Which is bigger sisters. And I was told, my mother told me to go out to the back and clean up my mess, put it by the garbage cans. And it was a nice fall night. I had to put the back porch light on, but I was cleaning everything up and getting ready to come back in. And I reached for the door handle of the screen door, and there was a black wasp inside the door handle, and it came out and bit me behind my right ear. um, Hurt a lot. But if you don't know anything about black wasps, they can sting multiple times. They don't die when they sting. I learned a lot about black wasps. Started in the house, walked in through the kitchen, and went into the living room. My sister started to yell at me again, and she turned around and she screamed. She goes, "Oh my God!" Of course, I couldn't see myself, but how she explained it, I looked like the Michelin tire boy. I blew up. I had an anaphylactic shock issue. I'm allergic to um, wasp venom. Wasp venom is different than bee venom. So I don't have an allergic reaction to bee. I've been stung many times, but wasps, they'll kill me. My my father was away. My godfather came over. They took me to the hospital. And the last thing I remember is getting in the police car, not an ambulance, but a police car. Now, this is 1958. And the last thing I remember was the police officer saying, "Would you like the siren on?" I said, "Yeah," and that was it. I died on the way to the hospital, which was about a 10-minute ride. Um, After that, what happened? I mean, I've read a lot about what everybody else says is, and I think it's all a personal experience and not collective one. I mean, there are some similarities with everybody, but I was 5 years old. I didn't have much knowledge of the world, you know? And so I'm in this tornado. It's a big gray tornado. I'm riding on top of it where it swirls, a big top. And there's people talking to me. I really wasn't sure what they were saying, but I did know that I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid of them. I wasn't afraid of what was going on. I was just sitting there on top of this big, no noise, just these voices. And I was going into a room that was it was pitch black. Okay. And the what was in the room was these spots, sharp spots of light, all dotted like polka dots. And I traveled up to one. All the while there was these people on either side of me talking to me all the time I was there. So um, I get up this one spot, and there was three children my age playing in a circle, and there was people standing around the edge of the light. You could tell they were there. It wasn't like I could see them clearly. You know what I'm saying? And there was a little girl. There's two boys and a little girl, and they were playing with puppies. All right. And the interesting thing was she was the only one that actually clearly spoke to me and said, and I can remember her distinctly, just like it happened yesterday. She had blonde hair, long blonde hair down to her shoulders. She had a beige sundress on with a collar and frills on the collar, um, and little blue flowers on the thing on her dress. Black patent leather shoes, socks. I saw everything. It was clear as day. Just like it's been what almost 70 years later, and I still remember this. But she says, "Come on down and play," and a voice said, "You can't do that." And she says, "Okay, well then here, have a puppy." And she reached up with her hand. And I'm making the gesture, and you can't see it, but she reached up with her puppy, and I went to touch it, and it was like this shock went through my whole body. It didn't hurt me. It just vibrated me really severely. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in the emergency room with a sheet over my head because they had pronounced me dead. And I took the sheet, flopped it down. The nurse was standing there and said, "Where's my mom?" And scared the living crap out of her. Her and the nurse, her and the doctor, and they both they shrieked. And then the next thing I know, they were fussing over me, and I felt my whole body itched. And they told me that was probably because of the venom and the antivenom that they put in, which was antihistamines that they pumped into me. Uh, I didn't hover anywhere. This is all. This is all what happened. And that was the first one. And quite honestly, that my mother didn't talk about it. I never told her anything about this. I never told my father either. Um, so it pretty much stayed in my head only. And it wasn't until I was 17 years old and I was getting ready for prom. And I had gotten sick, uh, like a flu sick for, oh, geez, a couple of days. And my father gave me Phillips milk of magnesia to settle my stomach to make it stop hurting. And I had a fever. And then it finally, the third day was the day, 2 days before the prom. He took me to a doctor, which was an old country doctor type thing. He rolls up to his office. He looks at me on the front steps. He goes to the emergency room. This man has appendicitis, and that's what I had. I had appendix attack, and I was in the hospital waiting to be, for surgery. And I'm laying in a bed outside the surgical theater with my father, and all of a sudden, I felt really good. I felt fine. And I said, "Dad, I'm feeling great. We can go home. I feel great," because I wanted to go to prom, you know. And he said, "Oh," he goes, "Okay, well, let me go tell the nurse." Well, the nurse came in, and I was sitting up. She laid me back down again. She said, "Stay right there. You're coming with me." And my appendix had burst. And that's why it was relief of the system because it was huge. It was like they said about the size of a grapefruit inside me. So um, they brought me into the surgical theater. I Last thing I remember from them was they're saying count from one to from 100 to one. They do that now too, so they get you to where they know. And I didn't even get the count, and my vision went poof like that. Well, little did I know at that point, I had I had passed away because of septic shock. The next vision was everything was white, and it kind of faded from white into images, and the images were people all kind of milling around, chatting with each other. They looked at me and they smiled, and I had somebody had me by the arm, my right arm, and there was people again talking to me on either side. And this time I heard them say, don't be afraid. You're fine. Everything is fine." And I turned to them and said, "I'm not afraid." I was more pissed off about what was going because I was missing prom. And this woman approached me, and she was, I would say, in her mid 50s, great hair, very pretty, with a white gown on, which you don't, which you think would normally happen, and a blue pendant, a blue emerald or blue pendant, just a stone in the pendant. And she says, "Ray," she goes, "Hi, I am Rose." And I go, "Right, nice to meet you, Rose." I go, "Where am I?" And she goes, "Well, you're in a place you can't stay for very long. And, I just I'm moving around to get out of these lights."
Oh, it's okay.
Um, that's, I'm sorry, you're going to edit this anyhow, right?
No, it's fine. No,
All
you can get
right.
comfortable. It's fine.
I'm
I'm
just,
really laid
you
back.
know, the woods, I'm just waiting for a critter to come out of here.
Hopefully,
Anyhow,
no spiders.
oh, there's a lot of big ones. Oh, you want to see them. Anyhow, I'm not afraid of them. But so she says to me, "How do you feel?" And I said, "I feel great." I, I said, "But, you know, where am I?" She goes, "Don't worry about where you are." Um, there was, uh, it was like everything was in pastels, but very, faded pastels. You know what I'm saying? It was really kind of surreal looking. And she says, "Now you have to go back now. Um, but I'm your grandmother, so tell your mom Rose says hello, and Tommy is with me and fine." I went, okay. So whatever they did, I got out of surgery and I was in, and it just kind of faded away. So they must have brought me back. My chest hurt, so they did do what do you call it, AED on me. At the time, it wasn't called AED, but I remember waking up and I still had the images in my head. And I mean, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, got home. I kind of didn't know what to think. The memory of what happened wasn't with me immediately. It came back to me after a couple weeks. All right.
So you missed the prom, huh?
Big time. But the girl that I originally asked, anyhow, that blew me off, got blown off too, and she came over and visited with me almost every day. So
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, it was fun. She became a pal. But the thing was like 2 weeks when I'm home, and I wake up from my dream, and it was the dream of what happened. And so the next morning I went downstairs and I said, I got to tell you something. And our family has been steeped in paranormal. There's been soothsayers. You know what a soothsayer is, right?
Huh, I don't.
Uh, oh, whether way back 20s, 30s, they used to call them soothsayers. We call them mediums right now,
Oh, okay.
or psychics. Okay, but
Okay.
my aunt on both sides were both heavy into it. My uncle was heavy into it. So I got all this information later on in life. But the interesting thing was, I said, I got to tell you something really weird happened. So I started telling her the story. And when I got to the fact that, this woman said she's my grandmother, and there was this pendant, she she turned white. And she goes, and when I told her Tommy, she just looked at me and her mouth hung open. She goes, "Tommy." And I go, "Yeah." She said Tommy. I go, "Yeah." I go, "Well, who's Tommy?" He was a brother that didn't survive. And I went, "What?" And he go, "Yeah, it was a brother that had passed away that I didn't know about because I was the youngest of three." I went, "Yeah, okay."
Your
She went up,
brother?
my brother. uh, I had two other brothers after that, and a sister. I'm the youngest, so I got away with a lot. And they keep telling me that. I didn't see that, but anyhow, um, she went upstairs. She come down and she had the pendant, and I have never seen it before because she kept it, locked up. It was a valuable piece. I go, well, that's it. That's what she was wearing. It was her mother Rose's pendant. So it would appear that I bet my grandmother, which I had never seen before, I only saw one of my grandparents basically at the end of his life when I was 5 or 6 years old, as my father's father.
And
But I
you
never
being a
met my,
police officer, this is something to hold up in court. I mean, evidence.
oh, yeah, yeah, I would say, yeah, yeah, I have that pendant too. And I mean, so there, I didn't see angels. I mean, there was a bright light this time, but the dark light in the beginning, I don't know what that was. Nobody can explain any of it. But like I said, everybody, it appears from what I've been reading and seeing, has these personal, very personal experiences, and this was my personal experience. And there's been so many things after that uh, that actually put me on a path to learn more about what paranormal, supernatural, what it is. And one of the things that I learned from not just those two experiences, but also something else that I've done over the past 20 years. I'm not afraid of dying because it's just another life somewhere else. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're only afraid of what you did and what you're going to judge yourself on because of what you did in your life, and that's how I see it. That's how I've what I've gleamed from all that exposure to it. So, basically, uh, there's so many people that I mean, you have to understand this whole age right now is very paranormal, very supernatural, super scientific and all that, and hopefully messages that come by or what we have and the people, other people that have had NDEs, they'll get to understand that this is one life. There's more lives after this. And if you choose to come back, you choose to come back because you feel like you want to, or you need to, or there's something you want to do. This what do you call it? Unresolved issues and things like that. I don't know if that's really the case. Am I back? Looks like I am. So, uh, but I was told by my grandmother that there was something else I needed to do that you're not here. You got something you need to do. There's something there for you to do, and you have to figure that out. And I honestly, I worked on for about 20 years uh, a device to be able to enhance the communication between our two worlds. Uh, and also, it wasn't for that as much as it was to learn and to understand what this phenomena was, where it comes from, what the energy is, how to measure it, how to enhance it, how to do things with it. And I built a lab. It's called O.W.E.L Lab, Other Worlds Energy Lab, which I've been able to create a conduit um, of communication that astounds me sometimes with how
It's
it
called
acts.
Hollow Lab.
Pardon me?
What's it called? Hollow Lab?
No, it's called OWL, O.W.E.L,
Ow. Oh, okay. Otherworld.
Other World Energy Lab, Other
Okay.
Worlds Energies Lab, and it's on. I got there's a Facebook website that I have. If you guys want to go look at it, it's great. We'll post the link, um, and you'll be astounded at the sessions that we had. That it took on a life of its own, so to speak. And we do a lot of sessions with people wanting to try to connect again. We go to a lot of forts, like Fort William Henry, which is up here in Upper New York State, in the Adirondacks. We're a mainstay there for them, and have an actual, research center, paranormal research center up there. And but I look at the experiences. I just want to tell you one story. What happened? There had been markers through my whole life that led me to do this thing with a lab, and there was a primary one that happened about 25 years ago. And my wife and I, if we ever got sick, we would go downstairs and sleep on the couch to not bother the other guy because we both worked. And it was one night, it was a Friday night, and she was very sick. She had, cold, respiratory issues, and she slept downstairs. So I woke up, it was 2 o'clock in the morning exactly because the clock was on the stand, and I was watching when I woke up. You know how you wake up dead sleep, your eyes slam open, you go, ah. So I went downstairs to see how she was, and I heard her on the stairs coming down. I heard this voice, absolutely gorgeous female, young female voice, very melancholy, but loud and clear as a bell. But the loudness didn't hurt; it just was loud, and it's saying, this female saying 6 notes 3 times. And I'm not going to sing them to you because I don't want to make people sick, but it was la 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 la, something like that. And I'm a musician, so I later on I went to a piano and I learned what they were. Was able to, reproduce them. I got into the living room. She sang again. I turned towards the dining room, which is right below where I was sleeping, our bedroom. She sang again. And we had two cats that were standing in the doorway between the living room and the dining room. They were looking up at the ceiling. And I turned to my wife. I said, "Did you hear that?" And of course, she was half asleep. She goes, "Yeah, somebody was singing." And she went back to sleep. The next morning, I talked to her about it. She says, "Yeah, I heard that. What was that?" And I went, "I don't know. I have no idea." But I come to find out, after all the years, and when I put this lab together, they started talking to me, and they started telling me things that that was nobody could tell me who or what that was singing to me. A couple of the psychics said it was an angel that was bringing you a message. Now, I'm a musician. I worked in communications for over 30 years. I was schooled in vibrations, tones, all that. And you know that we vibrate, and we have our own vibrational fingerprint in the universe, and it's unique, just like your fingerprints are unique. So that was all spurring and on. And when you leave this world, you take it with you because it's not your body that's vibrating, it's your spirit that vibrates, that puts out the music. It's the personal music, I call it. And I was able to tune in to those specific frequencies that spirits generate, and also we generate, and recreate it and create this machine, this um, spirit communications device. Now, it takes in so much, and you have to look at it. But is there you have any questions
How
about
does
any
that
of this?
work?
Uh, well,
I mean, what did you physically build?
oh,
It's like
uh,
stuff.
it, well, from it sort of thing is it built itself. I feel like I was just the hands and eyes and knowledge of how to build things. I'm electronics nut. I love electronics. I love technology, and what it has in it. Actually, I built in a. It actually evolved. I had it on one laptop, and I did some paranormal research with a couple of the local people, and I brought it just to see what was going to happen to this one house in a place called Herkimer, New York. So we were there, and it was speaking. It was speaking in English for all the time that I had it. We got down to Herkimer and started speaking German. Well, we'll come to find out, Herkimer is a settlement for a German. For German, it was a German settlement, and so it reverted to German and English. Then we went to this Fort William Henry, which was, I don't know if you remember, Drums Along the Mohawk, the French and Indian Wars. It all was up in the Adirondacks. And this was a very bad battle up there at this fort with the Indians and the British. We got there and it started to speak French because it was a French fort. And so we were missing so much, I built in translators so we could pick up and understand what they were saying. And we got so many voices, so many people talking to us all at once. We had, I had to figure it out. So what the technology is, it it actually is a transmitter, and I transmit what they would call a standing wave. It's like throwing a pebble in a pond consistently all the time in the same spot. How the rings go out. Well, that's what this is. It's like striking a tone, and that tone they seem to like, and they come towards. It's like a moth to flame, and then as when they come, then we can speak to them a lot better because they're in this um, area that we've created for them to be able to speak to us. But if we get full sentences, I have a translator and I have a transcriber on it now, and it's unbelievable how much conversation there is. I also have built into it this. It's a um, uh, atmospheric array from a Boeing 747, which gives me barometric pressure, temperature, an altimeter, humidity, because I find that when they come through, especially some of the strong ones, it's like a door opening and closing. You can see it happen with a barometer, and the temperature changes and the humidity changes. Like, if you're in a building, it's a hot day, and you walk into the vestibule, then you walk into the building, all of a sudden you get this rush of pressure. Everything changes because all the atmospheric changes. So that's in there too. These are all technologies that are working together to create this machine to help enhance the communication conduit.
Is there any way you can mass produce this? Like a
Uh,
high-tech
it
Ouija board?
well, it cost me $10,000 to build. I have some proprietary software that I had to write. Some of the device interfaces are I built myself. To to build one and resell it again, it'd be tough. Somebody else asked me that too, and I've been thinking about it, but I'm not sure, how to go about it right at this point. I've really never had anybody offer to buy one. A couple people did, but I told them how much it cost me to build, and they went, "Oh, okay." So
Have you talked to Bigelow Institute?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Have you talked to the Bigelow Institute about your
Mm,
device?
I don't know who they are
Okay,
actually.
I'll send you information. He's a
Bigelow, where are they?
billionaire who just had a contest recently. And to anybody, he's offering, I think, $1 million to anybody that could prove life after death.
Oh, you know what? I got to tell you, he's going to keep his $1 million
Well,
because,
he split it up, give it to different ones, but
yeah.
nothing really earth-shattering, I felt personally come
Well,
forward.
you know what? I really encourage you to go to the website and take a look at the Fort William Henry and the other couple other sessions that we did. I just, you have to see it. I can't even tell you about it. It was a very first time that we brought the whole lab out to do something with it, and our mouths were open most of the time. I was going, holy crap! They were talking to us. They're telling us their names. They were telling us who they were. They were telling us their environment. At one of the sessions, at the end, we heard a gunshot, and it wasn't just me that I actually didn't hear it right away until I played it back. But we had a virtual session from the fort on Halloween, and at the end, we thank everybody for being there. We thank the spirits for being there. And by the way, they they call us phantoms or the evil or spirits or ghosts because from what we have learned by talking to them, they see us as phantoms, as we see them in that unclear, you know, So we're not solid to them. We're like they are. So they get confused. I can understand why.
It's interesting. Now, do you do this with your machine, like I'm here with you, like you do like a Zoom or whatever, where you have people come on and they ask this machine questions?
Yeah, we've done quite a few. We usually the thing is it's better to be in person, Peggy, because your vibration. We had a woman that we went to their house. Her husband had died 6 months prior, and she wanted to talk to her. Her name was Mary, very sweet person, and he identified himself as Air Force, and he was in the Air Force. He died in the Air Force. They had a 2.5 hour conversation with this man. My daughter Kira is my partner in this, and we were just looking at it. So we just backed away, just let them have the stage, and they just sat there talking to her husband. And I go, "Are you sure?" Because there's some spirits lie. There's other ones out there they lie, and everybody's gonna say, "Oh, how'd you know it was him?" He came through with way too many things without them asking. He came through with way too many things. Talked to his son. Um, and the interesting thing, his son was autistic and on a lower scale of what they call spectrum. And he walked in just like his dad was there, talked to him, said hi. Oh, I'm doing this, dad. I'm doing that. You know, it was heart wrenching to see at first, but accepted it without a problem, like he was talking to him on the telephone.
Now, where is this physically located?
Where am I located?
This machine, yeah.
It, well, I have it at my house. I mean,
Okay. But
it's
like New
in, it's
York.
in, I'm in Schenectady, New York.
Okay. So, like, do you have people like make appointments and come there physically and
Some come to the home, so I don't usually, do anything after COVID. It was a little tough, but we go to their homes, um, and usually give them like a 2.5 hours of session. It's all recorded. They can have a copy of it.
Oh, okay. You go to people's homes and
Yeah,
bring your
yeah.
equipment.
And different businesses and different facilities, schools. We're going to do one with a school. My daughter's an art teacher in a private school, and they requested me to come in um, with the equipment and I'm going to broadcast it. I have a way of broadcasting the session too, so it's going to be fun. But yeah, I do stuff. We do sessions virtually, fully interactive. You talk to the machine. I mean, I have it set up so that you can see and hear and speak directly, and it
Do
doesn't
they
work
see
as well.
anything? I know they hear, but do they see images?
Uh, you'll see what I have on the screen, which is showing you the various devices and how they're interacting and how they work when the spirit comes in. Okay, like the barometric pressure will change. An interesting thing about that, I noticed because I have the altimeter, and you're going, where you're sitting, the altimeter or your altitude should stay the same. The barometric pressure should stay the same as well. The temperature may change and humidity may change, but what we've noticed is when that door opens and they come through, it'll drop, the barometric pressure will drop or rise, and so will the altimeter. And if you Google altimeters and how they work, it doesn't make any sense. And I have a friend that's at RPI, which is Rensselaer Polytechnical Institute here in Troy, New York, and told him about it. And he goes, "Well, that's impossible." And I showed him the information. He goes, "Well, something really strange is happening, and you better get your equipment recalibrated." Got it recalibrated, sent it back to the people I bought it from. They recalibrated, they verified that it worked. I got a ticket, put it back in again, did exactly the same thing. So, we have verifications, we have checks and balances to be able to tell, what's going on with this.
Have you thought about contacting Long Island Medium or people like that and incorporating it into their performance show,
Listen,
whatever it's called?
I, I would love to work with someone like that. I honestly would. I'm finding there's a group. Most people don't want. This is the science. What I'm doing is the science of paranormal. I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from, how it's happening, how it's generated, and what energies, what I call conventional energies, are being um, used to because sometimes when spirit comes in, it gets cold. They get cold snaps. It gets very cold. We've recorded a bunch of that, especially at Fort William Henry, when a whole troop came through. It was amazing. They did a muster. We had all these names, and the fort historian uh, almost fell on the ground. He goes, "Oh my God, that's the whole roster. We haven't even put that out yet." And I went, "Oh, that's great." And the temperature dropped to 38 degrees from 68 degrees. It dropped out, and we're watching this, and our breath, you could see our breath. Now, there was no malevolence. This is the interesting thing. We are not bringing through evil. We do a prayer. Um, we do exercises and things to protect ourselves with it. And then we bring them, we say thank you, and we close that door,
Now, did you
and
see
we,
the other? I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go on.
You say the other side thinks that we are evil, though,
Well,
earlier.
it is funny because there's a voice that comes through. Her name is Rose, not my grandmother, but we found out who she was, and she come through. She would scream, "Evil, devil, demon," and we go, "No, we're not." And finally, when we were able to um, connect with her properly and talk to her, we found out what happened to her. She passed away in the early 30s of a fire, and her children were killed as well.
Were
And
you
she's
able to
told us all.
verify like she actually lived?
Yeah, it was in Scotia, New York, and it was in the place that we were at. So yeah, we were able to look that up. We didn't find her children. We found, we did to find an obituary back then. For back then, it was really, really, really hard. But there was enough information to verify that there was a fire in that place and that people perished.
Have you tried
So
using this to like locate missing persons? Like ask questions and get information.
actually, actually no, but yes, we tried one. There was a person up here that was murdered, and the family approached a friend of the family, and the family approached. We did find some information and did verify uh, possible lead, but not all law enforcement. I'm I'm law enforcement here now, my second career, and but not all law enforcement have an open mind. And when you talk about supernatural paranormal, um, many of them are just black and white. But luckily enough, a lot of the guys that I talk to and the people I was able to get to, because they're brothers, they'll talk and listen. And there's some that really believe, so they're trying to take these leads and work with them.
Now,
And
when
it does.
you do you like host an event where you bring this or what I don't know what you call it, but do is that how much does this cost? Like say if someone wants to bring it to their home, for example.
Well, we if we and when we're traveling there, it's about 250 for 2.5, 3 hours, which is fairly cheap. And they get, like I said, they get full reign, full access. Then they get the video and the audio of everything that happened.
Okay. Now you say we, like you have a team, like you have a van, you
Yeah, I
sneak
said
this
my
in, or
daughter. Yeah, my daughter Kira is my cohort in crime. She's very psychic, very sensitive, and she has been since she was a little one. And her and I is a father-daughter team, and we do this on a regular basis.
so is there a lot to this equipment? I mean, is it big, bulky equipment? I mean, what's it look like?
Well, actually, up to 2020, when I rebuilt it, it was very bulky. There was three huge cases. Um, I I have a lot of other equipment. I have deep field video equipment that looks for anomalous figures, anything that resembles um, a human figure. I have that goes on. I have infrared IR cameras that I put up, and that's on one of them. So I've kind of scaled it down. I have it to two smaller cases that I can wheel in and out, and it's pretty much plug and play, just set up and go. So the other one was a little bit more. It it took a lot of back car space up, you know. So the new ones are very small. They're portable, very portable, and
I'm asking
you know
all
we
these
have a good time
questions
with it.
because I'm thinking, what if I come to New York, got a hotel room, and had you and your daughter come, and we could do a podcast?
Well, I'll tell you something. It doesn't sound like a bad idea because we're going to probably go to Fort William Henry this fall, and if you feel like it, you could come through there and stay there,
Okay,
um, and do the podcast. I think they'd love it.
okay. When is it?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay,
He's in the middle of his season. The person up there, his name is Sam. He's a very nice man. Um, and we were planning something for like October,
okay,
late October, early November. So
okay,
it's plenty of time to plan.
okay. Are
And
you
if
thinking
you
Halloween
know,
time again, or?
yeah, in and around that time, whatever dates we have open that we can do it. It'll be an overnight thing, is what we do.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
take a look at the Fort Wayne Henry um, session.
Okay.
I love it. I watch it. I've been there. I saw it. I've seen it, but I still watch it over and over again because I find other things that I missed in it.
Okay. Yeah. This sounds interesting.
I'll send you the link.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I could come up there and set up my equipment and do a podcast.
that'd be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Yeah, they have a very nice hotel there, and probably get a comp. I'll ask them about that. But we stay up many times to do that. But they have more activity because of all um, the death and despair that was up there. That's the other thing that we're learning. We have a bunch of stuff with Gettysburg, and you find they don't know that they passed. They don't know that they were killed. They didn't know any of this. So there's all this trauma going on, and it just is thick in that air up there. So we
I
go
tell
ahead.
you somewhere you might want to visit. About 45 minutes from me, my hometown, where I was born and raised, Marietta, Ohio. It has a historic, um, a Lafayette Hotel on Front Street in Marietta. People
Yeah,
actually come there and yeah.
yeah, I've read about that place. We got a
Um,
few here like that too. It seems like the old hotels.
Yeah. My husband and I spent the night there, even though it's not that far from our home. I just always wanted to spend the night there. And it's a beautiful hotel. And it's right on the high river. And, I just always grew up in that area and seeing these beautiful, hotels and things. So I want to stay there. So we stayed there for our 16th anniversary. We're going to have our 25th this year, so it's been a while. And so in the evening, we just walked down by ourselves and was looking around. And I went down in the basement because I kind of get these lead feelings sometimes. And I went down the basement, and he went to a different area because they all said the bathrooms was haunted. And I never had experience in the bathrooms, so I went down the basement. I got up by myself, and I was walking around, and suddenly it's that see feel feeling of like people rushing past me like I was in like 100 years ago, and they didn't know I was there. Like I'm a ghost, not them. And they're
Yeah,
like busy, like stuff had come in, like shipments from the river, and they're busy rushing back and forth, getting things in, and working. And I'm like, whoa, like it's just like something just went like this guy just went running past me, and I'm like, okay, it is haunted because I'm like doubtful, like I don't know, I don't see things. But I was like, whoa, and I just never
I
forgot.
love that stuff. And that's really cool to be able to see stuff like that. My daughter, since she was like 3 or 4 years old, kept telling me about the people at our house. And we actually bought. I'm in 44 years this year in a marriage, so I'm an old timer. And we bought a house uh, just before we got married, and we found that the house um, the cousin, the person we bought it from was a cousin of the person who built it, which his name was Peter Fuller. And then my mother found out that he is a cousin of ours. So the house was built and been in the family since it was built. So three owners, cousins. still family. I found my great grandfather's tintypes up in the attic. It was really kind of cool. And she kept telling us about this guy that would stand in her room and what he was dressed with. He had a Pomodoro hat on, and he had a trench coat, and he was drinking a beer and had a cigarette, and he would talk to her. So my wife and my daughter went out to the we found out who it could be, went to the library and found his picture, and she goes, that's him. And so we have like three prominent spirits, and they used to do all kinds of things when she was growing up. Especially, we found that young adolescent or um, preteen, and in the teen female are very sensitive and draw them like magnets. And her dresser used to shake, things on the dresser, windows used to knock. It was really wild. And, I grew up with it in my house, so I wasn't really afraid of it. So it was kind of neat.
What do they think of you at the police force and what you do? They tease you or
Who?
at the police force?
Uh, no, actually, no. I expected it, but no,
That's awesome.
no, they don't. The guys, you know, uh, if they do it, and I don't hear it, you know. But
Do it behind my back.
I'm the chief, so go ahead.
So yeah, they're gonna say it to your face.
I don't think so.
That's
I don't think
awesome.
so.
That's awesome because back when I was investigator for children's services, these things I kept so hidden from everyone. Sorry. Um, and to now be able to talk to people with sexual law enforcement, and I've had several. One guy, Randy Schiffler, one of my first people I interviewed over a year ago, he was deputy director of the Ohio Police Officer Academy, and got COVID and died, and he was not a believer before that. And so it was like, this is so cool. And like, I love having law enforcement people like yourself on that's had these experiences because I feel it makes us not so cuckoo.
Well, I've had experiences my whole life, so it's, my father would talk to me about them, and it's like anything else. Once you grow up with something like that, it's nothing really. At least I hadn't have any experiences that made me afraid of them. It's interesting though, but they have more influence on our world than we have on their world. So people need to know that. And these guys that are out there on TV, these sensationalists, I don't even subscribe to it. Ghost hunting, you don't hunt people. That's how I feel. We're a paranormal research group, and all we're doing is trying to find out, trying to connect and tell them that they're not alone, that there is, people out there that are trying to help them. You know, I've got a lot of psychics that are in the area that have come seen this. They sit in front of it and they help me with cleansing. Some of the people that come in, and it's gratifying to help.
There's a prison in West Virginia, and my husband's working a job near there, so we toured it. You can take a tour, and then at the end they tell you about how it's supposed to be haunted, and they have actual events where people come in and think they're going to see these ghosts and that kind of thing. Probably Halloween time, I don't know. And so I'm so they got talking about at the end, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I said, if you were, because they think that the ghosts of these inmates are there, and I said, if you were an inmate and trapped here in these bars, would you stay here when you died? I don't think so. I don't think you
Yeah,
have spirits of inmates here. Why would they want to stay here?
it's interesting. I mean, we ask people. Some of them are just happy to be where they are. They don't want to move on. Some don't know that they passed on. Some are afraid to move on because they just don't know what's beyond. They're cognizant enough um, that to know that their life has ended, but they need to know that they can go somewhere, and that's basically what we happen to. But If you take Gettysburg, there's a thing called what I call anyhow. This is my theory. It's called a film strip effect, and I have a video on the website to show you what it is, and it's troops marching through the woods, and it plays over and over and over again the same thing. Well, you know that emotions are very, very powerful things, and when you couple uh, uh, being afraid, scared out of your wits, uh, away from home, um, afraid of dying, knowing that what you got in front of you, injured, just angry, all those things. Um, when it happens, it imprints on time and space. And it's not really spirits, it's just their image that is so intense that's imprinted. And that's what you see, this film strip of the same thing happening over and over. It happens in a lot of different places. And then some other ones are actual spirits that are wandering around, not knowing that they're passed away and thinking that they're still fighting the good fight.
It makes me think of George Ritchie. He have you heard of him? And I
Hmm.
think his little tiny book, he's since passed away, is called Return from Tomorrow, and I think you can get it on Amazon for like $1. And it's the best little book. And there's YouTubes of him out there to watch, and they made like reenactment documentaries of his story, but like years ago, because he's an old man and died. He was in the military, and that he was going to be shipped from there where he was stationed to, this was going to send him to medical school in his hometown. So he was so excited to do that, but he had to be medically cleared first. Well, he had a fever, and he ended up dying of like this flu or something. And he stepped out of his body, and he was just not understanding he was dead, and he flew as fast as he could towards home. And he stopped on the way and started walking around this bar, and there was spirits leaned up against the bar besides the other people drinking, just in that addiction, wanting to drink, wanting to smoke, wanting to participate in that. And they just wouldn't leave there.
That's usually spirits looking for spirits.
Yeah, I mean, they were spirits, like say I get out here, my bar down here, and there might be guys that always love to go to that bar, and they might be belly up to that bar because they just still love, that's where they want to be.
Yeah,
That's where they want,
yeah.
maybe they don't
That,
want the white light of heaven and the beautiful everything it
no,
has to offer. They want to be belly up in the bar with their buddies.
yeah. And I think that's a lot of, I mean, it's all, I think it is a personal thing to a point, but some of it is purely they don't know they are not alive and they think they are. And
They
they
don't know they're
can't
dead.
understand. Yeah, they can't understand why people won't talk to them. Interesting enough, what's happened with this machine is that we found that uh, they get to talk to each other, which is kind of neat. All of a sudden, they won't be talking to us anymore. They're talking to each other about things, and it's like, oh, okay. I guess we'll sit here and wait for their conversation to be over with. And it's kind of making a conduit not just between us, but between them as well.
And what's so odd sitting here talking to you about this is I know what it's like to be a ghost. At 5 years old, when I drowned, I come up out of the water and I was hovering, so I figured I must fly, must be able to fly. So I went down one way and I walked into this house, and there were spirits sitting around this table, went right through the door, and they turned and looked at me, and I said, I'm looking for kids to play with. And one man at the end of the table said, look at the graveyards. And so I went down towards this highway, and there's two boys walking, and I stopped, and I'm walking right beside them. What are you doing? What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? Not really grasping. They can't see you, not grasping that. I say I'm 5. Never been dead before. This is new to me. And so they're ignoring me. And then there's a taller one and a shorter one, like brothers. And so the smaller one we was talking telepathic. He was answering my questions. Oh, we've been fishing. We're in a hurry home and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, that's how that communication works.
Yeah.
Spirits can just start talking in, and we don't even realize who we're talking to. And I thought, okay, well, this is kind of boring because they really don't see me, they're ignoring me. So I flew down the highway. I mean, I'll never forget being over the highway and flying down and almost run smack into a billboard. And I never could figure out for years, why does that billboard freak me out every time I see it? And I dropped down, and there was kids playing in the yard, and I was running around playing ball with these kids. And then I realized they don't know I'm here, so it's just not as fun when people don't know you're there. So I started going in and out of houses looking. And then after the drowning one day, and I don't know how soon after the drowning, but I was with my family, and it was five kids, and I'm the youngest of the five. My parents are driving, and my seat was kind of laying in the back glass. It's real tiny for my age anyway, and that's where my seat was laying in the the back part of the seat. And many times we went to our grandparents' house. We went all the time. I never did this before. All of a sudden, I was like, I seen these kids playing in the yard, and I thought, that's my family. And I didn't understand why. Well, I do now because I thought this will be my new family. I'm playing with these kids. And that's my family. Like I belong to them. And then as we drove on down, I'm like, I remember being in those houses. And I thought, you've psychologically, mind knows, like I'm having this conversation with myself. You never was in those houses. You're not allowed to just go in and out of people's houses. My parents don't allow that. I didn't go in those houses. But I know I was in and out of those houses. I remember floating right through the walls, through side to side through the houses, going in and out, looking around. And so we got to my grandma's house, and everybody went on inside as they normally do. And I stood there, confused on the sidewalk, looking across the street at those houses, remembering I was in and out of those houses. And here's this dialogues like, you never did it. And I guess I did. I know I did. And so it's so strange because after my second NDE, and months later, I had seen Oprah had people on talking about they died and come back. I don't know if they said the word near-death experience. The first time I ever heard it, and oh my God, what weirdos, what liars. Oh, that's just so horrible. And I took a step back
uh,
to go in the kitchen to cook, and something just like stopped me. And I thought, why does that sound so familiar? And it hit me, my whole NDE that I had when I was 25 years old, it come back. Because I had pushed it away, because I'd lost my twin
yeah.
from that and everything. And it all come back, it flooded, and I just shook. And so it's so strange, though, because that same dialogue was happening then at 25 as it did after the 5-year-old. That dialogue of two voices in me saying, this happened, and another one saying, no, it didn't. That makes no sense. That couldn't have happened. It's the exact same dialogue.
Mm.
And it's just so strange, when we talk about ghosts, I'm like, but I know what it's like to be a ghost. And
Well, you
whose
were
was
actually
that?
out of body. You were an out of body, which your body was still alive. So I don't know if it's a ghost or just a spirit
That's
or
the
an
only
out of
word
body
I
experience.
know, to say.
Yeah,
Like when I
it's
first came out of
interesting.
my mouth, and my husband said, don't say that. Don't say you
Yeah,
were a ghost. And I said, what else would you call it?
it's interesting how younger children and even maybe a little older children adapt and take it in their stride. What happens to them, like what you said, it's like, oh, I got a new family to play with. Like I said, when I was five, I didn't even think about my parents when I was in that room. I was just thinking about playing with those kids that were on the
Right.
ground,
What do we do? When as soon as we die as a child, we want kids to play with.
Yeah, yeah, and they were there. So that's
Yeah, we're not
interesting.
interested in, oh, show me the the book of life or
Oh, I hear all this stuff from the NDEs, and I'm happy for everybody. And please don't misunderstand that. I'm not discounting, but uh, it's like uh, I went to one uh, group psychic reading, and everybody wanted to talk to, and ended up talking to all these celebrity people. I'm going, no, they're not hanging around just to talk to you, you know? And it's like, I, I started getting soured by it because of, uh, they told you what you wanted to hear. And to me, that was just trying to build up a clientele
yeah.
to have you return again. And it's like, come on. Do I believe? No, I didn't believe any of it. And it wasn't until a friend of mine, his name is Ray. Also, I grew up with. He was my closest, if not a brother type friend. Just passed away a few months ago, unexpectedly. Oh, and that interesting thing is, I went down and I turned on the machine about a week afterwards and tried talking to him, and um, I said, Ray, if you're here, if anybody can make it through this veil, you can come and speak to me. And I have this thing that I say every once in a while, and I don't mean to. And the week before he passed away, he was busting my chops about it because we got excited about something, and I call him dude, you know? Well, the voice and the type came across from the transcriber. I'm here, dude. And I went, okay, all right. And I loved it. That was perfect. Um, People, if you're aware of what is out there, what you're possibly going to encounter when you pass away, I think it's going to be an easier transition. I think these days and times, people are more aware and more understanding. I don't believe that they're depicting it in these TV shows the proper way for people to really get a grasp on it. And I think they're scaring more people. And that's really the premise to these shows, to scare people. People like being scared. I don't know why. I don't like being scared.
I was so disappointed in Netflix's Surviving Death. Episode one was fantastic. They had the NDEs, but the last couple minutes, it suddenly had this woman sitting there, and it looked demonic. And they started talking about the next episode, which was going to be more about, ghosts and
Yeah, I
all
know.
this stuff. And oh man, you just ruined a great thing. And the rest were all crap.
Well, that's why I say I don't subscribe to some of this stuff because one, it's sensationalized. Two, they've been caught so many times in lies and setups and setting up these things that why believe what they're doing? It just doesn't make any sense. People like watching it. Okay, it's great. I haven't moved that much forward because I'm not doing the sensationalism. I'm trying to be get scientific proof of the hereafter, of our next life, of the existence beyond this life into the next. And I have had enough conversations with these spirits and other people, but mostly the spirits, and I have my own proof. I know. They told me what it's like. They said, here, this is what it's like. This is what we're doing. This is what we see from our side. You know, it, it, it's, you're in, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're only afraid because of the unknown. And now that we're telling you it's not unknown any longer,
What I
we're
just had
showing you.
a fantasy, like, wouldn't it be great if this technology evolved to where it's like, say, every county sheriff's office had one, and they could go, say, my child's missing, and they go to the sheriff's office, where is my child? And say the child is drowning, or they're
Yeah.
somehow able, like as dead as I was in the pond, that level of dead where you can still be rescued
Yep.
but you could communicate. Like I
Yep.
could go
Yeah, I get it.
there and say, "Hey, I'm at the bottom of the pond, Mom. Get out of the kitchen. Come down here and get me."
Well, I have to be honest with you. Even though we do sessions, we have places like Fort Winnie Henry and all the other some other forts and some other businesses that pay us to come in to do it. Um, I don't get a profit. What I this all the money goes back into redeveloping this and getting more and more technology to help prove this
So is it
point.
like a nonprofit? Like
Yeah, we're a
business?
nonprofit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
nobody,
what mine is
my
too.
daughter and I don't profit from it. The donations, we say donations, going to, we are an LLC, so we're local, a limited liability company. We have to be to go after grants and things like that, and also to bring monies in to be, legal. you know, the point is that I have so many other things I want to build that just don't have the cash to do it, and I got the time. But what I need to do is right now I'm working on a visible. um, medium to actually see spirits move through the room. Um, it's under a quantum theory, and I've got a small experimental, and it worked great. But I need the bigger to get the bigger picture.
I'll send you the information on Bigelow Institute. I think they might be interested. He's a billionaire and he's
It'd be
interested in
fun,
this.
but I didn't develop this to like you said. You asked if
Right, but it
I could
takes
make them and
money
sell them.
to operate.
Yeah, and quite a few of my friends that are psychics say, Ray, do you really want to put this technology out to people that may abuse it? You know, everybody has a good intention, but they also have their best foot forward when they do things. This is a one of a kind right now, and I've gotten said to me that I'm being selfish, that other people, and I go, well, look at, I'm offering this to you to come into the virtuals I've done in Australia, I've done them in London, I've done them all over the world during COVID. I just had an open session once a week, and there was no payment. I didn't ask for payment. I just did them because they weren't really all that great. They were okay. Some of them really came out really great for the people, and but you have to be in front of it. You have to experience it. Your energy really does fire this up thing. My daughter's got the energy. She's kind of like a catalyst a lot of times.
I'm thinking of what this could do for people who have lost loved ones to suicide. If they could connect and be able to say why, and if the person on the other side could be able to like redeem themselves by giving him, I'm sorry, I messed up, whatever, I couldn't do
I've,
it
I,
anymore, whatever they have
I've
to say.
I've had a couple of people come and their husbands had committed suicide. That's a whole another existence, it appears. They they didn't come through clear. We had a hard time with them. I'm not really sure. One person, close friend of mine, his mother was an alcoholic, and she actually purposely, from what I understand, drank herself to death. Um, did come through and was able. She actually apologized to her son for being the way she was, and apologized for all the years, and did a bunch of, told him a bunch of things. And I, of course, if you come in and you connect with somebody, whatever you're receiving, I have no idea if it's true or not. You're the only one that can say, yes, that's my father, that's my grandfather, yeah, no, that's my son, that's my husband. You're the only one that can do that. We can't verify that that's who it is. And their verifications, and those verifications are only done on a one-to-one basis. A couple of the one woman that came in on the session, she did connect, and all the spirit said was, I am so sorry. And it was the last thing that we heard, and no more came through. So I would say yes, and then I would say I I'm a little tentative about that happening, on a consistent basis. I don't have any objections to trying. Obviously, we tried so many things.
I
We've
just had
got so
another,
much.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't know if you've heard of it. Dr. Alan Bakken and the induced after death communication.
Hmm.
It's IADC. He was a psychiatrist for years for the VA, and they use the eye movement
Oh yeah,
therapy.
yeah.
And he had accidentally changed a rhythm of it or something, and he started just copying that rhythm, not realizing he was off something, and his patients started having these after death communications during this, and they
Hmm.
were healed after one session of what trauma they had of,
Good.
of lost a loved one or something, of war, whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
interesting.
long story short, he developed this technique and wrote a book, and a small little book, and I bought it, and at the end it tells right how to do it. And you're supposed to go to and have a session with him for a weekend and learn the technique, but it tells right there how to do it. And you have to have a master's degree before you can go to this weekend. So I couldn't go because I didn't finish.
Oh
I
my
just got a
God.
master's, right? And so, but I learned how to do it. So I tried it on my husband, and So I thought, well, let's see. My husband's brother died at 5 years old of leukemia. His younger brother, and so I just did this little technique, and didn't know what to expect. Probably nothing, right? And so as I'm doing it, something catches the corner of my eye, and I look, and the kitchen wall is there. And so I take my eyes off my husband, and I see this young man, like say 16, 17, maybe to 20, I don't know, young, healthy, beautiful, young American Indian looking guy running through this wheat field, golden wheat field, this beautiful blue sky background, just running, like full size view, running along. And he turns and looks and smiles and goes back. And I'm like, and I turn to my husband to try to speak to what I just saw. I don't see things like that on a normal basis. And as I turned and look at him, I decided this isn't the time to tell him, because my husband, who does not cry, is sitting there crying. I'm like, what's wrong? He said, that's my brother. And I thought, did you see what I saw? No, he didn't see that. He saw his brother's the age he was that he died.
Yeah,
And he says, I
yeah.
have not been able to remember what my brother looks like till just now.
That's cool.
And so
That's
I
cool. See,
said, did he have, like, my husband, his family's all real white skin, crystal blue eyes, and his parents are prejudiced. So this makes no sense that I saw what this Indian looking boy. And so I asked his mom, I said, did Jeffrey, his brother that died, I said, was he more American Indian looking, and these dark brown eyes, and this, they all have dark brown hair, but, and she said, yeah, he was. I could have not known that. I mean, I've
that's
seen a
cool.
black and white picture of him before that I don't hardly remember, as a child. There's no way I could have picked up on that skin tone and the color of his eyes. And I know that was real. And so I'm just wondering if a technique like that during what your machine does, if it would help bring out.
Well, this is all the research that I'm saying that, there's other researchers that could probably help with even a higher, enhancement of what we're trying to figure out with this. The whole bottom line to this was to help people being those that have passed over, and also the people that are here. We've had so many great um, responses from people after sessions that they got their closure. They were able to get their closure, and that was the bottom line to what I
And
was
that's
trying
what
to
this
affect.
was for closure, for
And
people.
maybe it's a good idea to get a hold of these guys. You can send me that information,
Okay.
and then I can
Dr. Allen
contact them,
has
see what they
since
have to say.
retired.
Hmm. Well,
The book's still there with
even the
pictures
institute
right in
that
the
you told me
back.
about,
I know how to do
yeah,
it.
you,
It's not hard.
uh, just okay, we could try that. Maybe when you come up
Okay.
to the fort, it'd be fun.
Okay.
Anything, anything that would help.
I'll send this video to the Institute, the Bigelow Institute, too.
Okay.
Might
I
ignore
mean,
me.
there's so much more. There's so much more to the design and devices that were involved that I'd put you right to sleep if I told you, the blow by blow. My daughter snoozes every once in a while when I get talking to her,
And
but
you probably don't want somebody duplicating this either. I mean, this is your invention.
yeah, it can be duplicated. I can build another. It's not a big deal. It's just that it isn't cheap, and um, the pieces and parts that are taken to do it, to rebuild it, and it's not something I can't do. It's something I haven't really thought of doing for any
I'm
reason,
thinking of
really.
Bell Telephone when it was first invented. you know.
Yeah, without the coin return.
Okay. Well, I really have enjoyed this. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you
And
for having me, and I thank everybody for listening. I hope we can do this again sometime, and maybe a session online.
yeah, sounds interesting. And I'll definitely be there and this fall.
I'll keep you informed. Send me over those links to
I
those
will.
people. You're sending that. You said you're sending it on to the institute.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.